So we've talked about a few things that indicate we're at a bad event. You did a zone event for your zone a few weeks ago, and I read about it all over on the internet. Lots of compliments, lots of. There was one guy in particular that thinks you're like some kind of tech god. Good for you. Um, how do you know when you're at a really good event? What are you seeing technically? And we can talk about this without leaving anybody in the dark. What are you seeing as a technical person? And you go, wow, this is impressive. These people know what they're doing. Does anything jump to mind?
I think, we talked about how dead air is a pet peeve and seeing some of the behind the scenes. I think if you can make it very seamless and just roll from one part to another, that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for just a continuous delivery of program,
Yep.
and we work hard to make sure that, again, going to the technology, we got some technology on the back end using some switchers and stuff like that that we use to make sure things are queued up, things are ready to go. You
Yep.
mentioned the minute by minute script. We make sure that all that is ready, because you can tell if people have done that sort of work, because it's a constant flow of production
Yeah.
of the program.
Yeah. It's like a TV show. You've mentioned the term switcher a few times. For the benefit of anybody that doesn't know, I'll give
Yeah.
them a Flintstone definition. You can imagine that there's two cameras, and one camera is a close up, and the other camera is what's called an establishing shot. And so you might open on the scene with an establishing shot, but whoever's manning the switcher, everybody, can flick a button and move it to the close up shot just like that. That person's called a switcher. They're called different things in different environments, but I think that's what you're referring to. Yeah.
It is actually.
Oh, look at this. We have a demo.
We got one right here. This is the Blackmagic A10 Mini Pro, and came out earlier this year. And for $595, there are some amazing capabilities. I mean, this is almost. I mean, there's
Hold
TV
it up
production
again for
quality in
us.
there.
Hold it up again so we can see some of the buttons.
Yeah. So,
600
so
bucks.
yeah. So these are all your different inputs. There's 4 inputs. It's
Yep.
all HDMI. So
Yep.
most everything has an HDMI output. Most camcorders nowadays have what's called a clean HDMI output,
Yep.
and you can switch between all those inputs, do some on-screen graphic type stuff.
Yep.
So it's super powerful and highly recommended.
I noticed none of the inputs are labeled in the studio, in the recording studio. When we were recording music, they always put a old fashioned Flintstone man piece of Scotch tape along the base of the board underneath the buttons, and you labeled it close up, establishing shot, audience, right? Is that what you
That's
do?
right. Yeah, we put tape on the bottom, and that also has a multi-view out, so that you can have up on another monitor. You can see all 4 shots at once. You can see the one that's on and the one that's about to go on.
Yeah.
And there's some audio levels and stuff like that in there, so you can
Yeah.
make sure you're not blasting people's ears.
You know, one tip I would give everybody, and I appreciate you working with stream of consciousness this fairly unformatted interview. One thing I always encourage people to do is take a walk, and nobody ever does. Take a walk to the back of the room in the physical, at the physical event, and ask the techs if you can have a quick peek at their setup. Now, when you do this the first 30 times, you won't even know what you're looking at. It would be look like walking into an ER at a hospital. You wouldn't really know. It's just stunning, the stuff that's going on. But that's the start, everybody. It's becoming aware of the gear and what's possible and how many, oh yeah, and how many people do you need to do this? Oh, 3, okay. And you start to understand what's happening. We had talked about lighting a bit before we pressed record today. Let's talk about this quickly, because people can put this into motion right now at home with their own Zoom setup. You said you did theater in high school?
AV geek, yeah.
Yeah. So these
a little
lights
bit,
and
yeah.
these lights, the Fresnels and the key lights and all that stuff. We learned something early on called 3-point lighting, which you and I
Mhm.
briefly discussed before. We were just comparing each other's setup, guys. That if you have a light in front of you to light the front of your face, it's this simple, and you have a light over here, and you have a light over here that's a different distance or a different wattage than this light, Then you create a little shadow on one side of the face, which makes you appear lifelike, right?
That's right.
Is a big difference over than say just the one ring light, which is what a lot of people are using, I think, in a Zoom environment. So
That's
it's
right.
we're
And I
not
like,
talk. Go ahead.
was gonna say, I like in your setup too, you got that neon light in the background to give a little bit of depth too. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
quick, everybody, that's just a quick ribbon light. It looks like hell behind there because I didn't know how I would use it when I bought it, but they're cheap. Um, and it changes colors and it changes intensity. I can make it move if I need to, which I usually don't. I can complement the outfit I have on, which I didn't care to do, obviously. But what that does is it provides what photographers call, and Marshall knows this, depth of field. So the background isn't flat. Like here's my pet peeve: these artificial backgrounds, these virtual backgrounds you're seeing on Zoom. I mean, everybody loves these things, man. You can't talk them out of it.
that's right.
But I would
Right.
much rather see what's in the background. I see you're a reader. You got some red tennis shoes back there. The piece of art behind you is interesting. And I think if people look at my background, they maybe comment on the knight in shining armor, or the books, or the plants. Because what you're showing in the background indicates who you are as a person. If it's your office.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that's been one of the most interesting parts of this COVID is we've been able to see people in their natural habitats. We've been able to see people where they live. It was really interesting when this first started to watch Rotary President Mark Maloney doing a lot of things remotely, and it's like, oh, I can see where the RI president lives, and I see a little bit about him, and it's always interesting, like you said, to see people and talk to them about what's in their background, because I think we've kind of lost some of that personal connection because we've been absent being together. And
Yeah.
so being able to make those connections with people through their homes has been really kind of neat. So I completely agree with you in terms of don't use the virtual backgrounds.
Well, it's kind of like a little bit of sleight of hand. If you're not in a physical environment with somebody, because I'm teaching sales online and stuff like that, you have to have a bag of tricks, just like
That's
you have
right.
a bag of tricks if you have production values at your event. They're all designed to be more enticing, more attractive, keep people on the call longer. One of my favorite things to do, I've been doing a lot of keynotes on Zoom, is I look down in the system tray of the Zoom interface to see how many people are on at the beginning of my presentation.
Right.
And then I look again toward the end of my presentation to see if I
And
lost anybody,
that's
you
right.
know, because I'm interested in the numbers. And I think numbers tell the tale